All right, so the dogs are eating, the clothes are hanging to dry. I gave the dogs some grass-fed beef after their walk this morning with their food. And that was Alfredo, the big boy of our two dogs that you saw in the video. And Oatmeal, the little dainty girl, she was off camera. But time to go check on the goats. It was really pouring a little bit while I walked the dogs, and the sun's peeking through now, and looks like we're gonna be able to get the goats out for a little while this morning. And so here we go. I did see they were playing with each other a bit earlier, but now they're chilling. So I will get them out. And while we're doing that, let's talk about changing habits. I've been thinking a lot about consistency and the things that I want to consistently do for my health and for community building and building business and things like that. And so I'm thinking about the things that I do want to do. But what about those things that you don't want to do? Those habits that you want to break, let's say. And in some ways, and for some people at some times, that might be even harder than adding in a habit, let's say. Adding in a healthy habit. And what makes it harder? Well, it's hard to do something, to stop doing something that sort of calls to you. You know, when you have a nicotine addiction, let's say, that nicotine calls to your body. You've got like a thermostat. It tells you how much nicotine is in your body, metaphorically. And when there's not as much as you're used to having, it kind of calls to you. And, you know, for example, if you get your nicotine through smoking, there's this feeling of like wanting to have that in your lungs. So it kind of calls to you. You want to have that smoke in your lungs. So how do we change those habits? One way is to notice how they feel, right? Notice how the habits feel. So, and maybe smoking feels really, really good to you, and so you have to start to notice how it affects your body. And what would help you to do that? What would help you to do that? Well, maybe adding something in. So you could, like, let's say you could add in an exercise routine that would help you with not smoking, because it's going to make it more uncomfortable for you. Like if you're not used to exercising, if you're already used to exercising and you smoke, then maybe it won't make that much difference. But let's say you don't normally run 3 miles a day, well then you could work up to running a mile or 2 or 3 a day. You know, whatever gets you like really winded. And then start cutting down on the amount that you smoke and see how that benefits your runs, because when you start doing the runs consistently, that's going to call to you. So that's one example. Now, I used to smoke, and it kind of got kicked out of my body. I started changing my habits, and the smoking, like my body started to not like it. I started to feel how I was feeling less well from smoking. So that's one way to sort of take away a habit that you want to change, to break a bad habit. It's one thing that could be a factor in it. There might be lots of factors, like keeping a journal of when you do the bad habit, quote unquote bad habit, the habit you want to break. And, what happened before it, what happened after it, what were you thinking and feeling at the time that you were just about to light up? What sort of triggered it? For some people, it's they tend to light up at the sort of transitions between activities, for example. And so you notice that, and then you can be ready for that and learn to manage that transition between activities without smoking. And so that's one way to do that. My screen is just it's got stuff all over it. I don't think that's impacting the camera. I think it's because I went out in the rain and the phone got wet, and then it got sticky and it got like little pieces of cloth on it from my hoodie or something. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, taking away a habit that you want to take away, and then how do you deal with temptation with that? Well, I think self-forgiveness comes in here. A night or two ago, I had a little bit of ice cream. It was like it was a keto ice cream. So it doesn't interrupt my keto diet. But I think that, there were some peanuts and some things in there that I don't normally eat. And I just had a little bit, but I felt it affect me. I felt it. And so I think that's one of the things that happens. If I smoked a cigarette now, for example, I would just turn green and that's not going to happen for everybody. That it sort of gets kicked out of your body like that with smoking. But I suspect you'd notice it, especially if you do with smoking. There are certain things that you can do, like change the brand of cigarettes. That's one of the things I did. I got off of the chemicals. I started smoking tobacco that doesn't have additives into it, and so that was quite helpful. And I also got the strongest version of those. So like the brand that I used that didn't have any additives into it was American Spirit, and I got the strongest ones, so that it would be kind of overwhelming to me when I smoked them. If you already smoke the strongest ones, I still recommend getting the American Spirits or something without additives, because that's part of the addiction if you smoke cigarettes. Another way to change smoking, cannabis or cigarettes, is to take yourself off of the smoking and manage that addiction. And a lot of people do that now, with nicotine patches and tinctures, if it's for cannabis and things like that. And you can raise the CBD level so it's not as intoxicating, and so you can wean yourself off of the smoking, and then you can regulate the amount of these chemicals that you get into your body with patches or tinctures or whatever, and then you're just doing the chemical addiction and not the you wean yourself from the smoking addiction. And I'm telling you, the smoking is a big part of the addiction. It's a big part of it. Some naturopathic doctors even have like vapes that you can get that are other herbs other than tobacco and cannabis. So that's another route that you could go, is to actually take away those chemicals and then have something that's sort of an elixir that you use. So changing and replacing. Another thing to get consistent about is self-forgiveness. Self-forgiveness. So, as I mentioned, I had a little bit of ice cream the other day, and I noticed how it affected me. I had a little bit harder couple of days and a harder night last night with tinnitus, that ringing in the ears that I've been working with, that comes and goes. And I worked really hard to get to the point where it comes and goes, right? Where it's not just there all the time. And then so I notice when I change my habits, when I zag instead of zig, in other words, eating that little bit of ice cream, I notice how it feels. It's like, oh wow, I've become even more sensitive. My gut has become more sensitive since I've been eating healthy all this time. And I'm not saying you can't have a little bit of ice cream, but what I'm saying is that I noticed it and I enjoyed it, but I don't want to do it again. And I forgive myself. But that's the work for me, is forgiving myself. And that's an important part of changing a habit, I think, because, well, I don't think, I know that it is for me and for lots of other people, because that inner critic is a self-sabotager. That shame and guilt that you feel can put you in kind of a loop, and where a lot of people with addiction, especially to things that are mood altering, part of the impulse toward the addiction is to get out of that self-criticism. And it gets you away from it for a little while, but then you're criticizing yourself for still being in addiction, and it's kind of a loop. So I hope this is helpful. Now I've got the gate all opened up. Let's get these goats out. The sun is coming out. And I just stepped on a piece of fencing that we haven't put up yet. And getting their leashes. All right, so I'll go over and get them on their leashes, and then we'll walk them out. Yeah. All right, goats. Come on, Mousy. She doesn't want to be pulled. Oh, no, don't go that way. You gotta both go around the same side of the thing here. And pull it down. There we go. Oh. All right. So I've got the goats on their leashes. They almost got me wrapped up here. Come on, goats. Come on, goats. And so what we'll do is we'll find a spot for them to kind of have some food and stuff. Okay, looks like they're gonna eat a little bit right here. Sometimes when I walk them, they kind of pick different spots to eat along the way. And this video is becoming kind of herky-jerky, isn't it? That's all right. We'll get to a spot here. They're going for this this tree here. This is a like a loquat tree. A loquat tree. The other day I was calling it it was yesterday. I was calling it a strawberry guava, which they also love. But this one is loquat. And she is really excited. So this is another, like I was thinking about this theme, right, of consistent habits this morning. And, this is one of my consistent habits, is like making a video while I walk the dogs and get out the goats. And it's starting to become a little bit more consistent now. I was struggling a lot through the second half of last year, really struggling with the tinnitus, and I spent a lot of time out here sleeping under the big tree, and I did the fast that I was talking about in another video. I fasted for about 11 days, and before that I intermittent fasted for a few months, where I just ate a small amount and really worked on figuring out what was triggering my tinnitus and adding things slowly back in. And it was a challenging time. And during that time, my wife Devin got the goats and built the fence, and I helped a bit, but I wasn't the one that was consistently taking care of them at first. It was her. And I've gradually become more consistent in doing this. So that's part of what got me thinking about habits and things this morning. and about consistency specifically, how things have a consistent rhythm. When you start to do them regularly, and when they start to feel good, they sort of call to you. And you know, nature has a consistent rhythm. Goats have to eat every single day, right? You like it when certain bodily functions have a consistent rhythm. They happen at a certain time every morning. If they don't, you worry. Your heart beats with a consistent rhythm. At least it consistently beats. You know, maybe you've got some arrhythmia or something, but it consistently beats. And you consistently breathe. You know, all these rhythms of nature consistently happen. And tuning into that can be informative to our health and our businesses and our communities. And working with these animals really kind of puts me in touch with that consistent rhythm. And I've noticed they love to eat when I'm with them too. So that's great to see them eating so much. I love the sound of their eating too. Pan, she'll really get up on her hind legs and eat this tree. And so does Mouse. Mouse is the gray one. She's the kid of the black one, which is Pan. Or brown, whatever color. The darker colored one. So I hope this video is helpful and enjoyable. I'm Tom Kirkham. I'm here on Big Island, Hawaii. And I'm a mental health counselor and an integrative health counselor. And I'd love to hear your comments below, or if you want to hit me up privately about something, then feel free to do that. You can find me through the links in the description. And so I look forward to hearing from you, and I will see you on the next video. Aloha.